Here at Talking Lab, I'm going to start that again. Stutter!
Hello and welcome to the second ever episode of Talking Lab Live! We are your hosts. My name is Lucy. I'm a speech and language therapist and the founder and director of Talking Lab Speech and Language Therapy.
And my name is Sophie. I am an autistic speech and language therapist and I also work at Talking Lab. Here at Talking Lab, we are obsessed with communication. So we want every single episode to explore lots of different areas of communication through the lens of a speech and language therapist, which is us.
In this episode of Talking Lab Live, we're giving you a sneak peek behind the curtain into what happens in a speech and language therapy assessment with Talking Lab. We love meeting new families and being a part of their communication journey. And from the feedback and reviews we receive, we're confident that we're offering a 5-star service. We're talking about how families find and get in touch with us and what happens at every stage of the process, from first contact to triage, making an appointment, visiting us at our clinic space, assessment, diagnosis, recommendations for support, and forward planning. We're debunking all the myths and mystery around speech and language therapy assessment and answering questions like, who is suitable for an assessment? And does a child need to be able to talk or perform in any way during the session? This episode is ideal if you're thinking about contacting a speech and language therapist for an assessment, if you have an assessment booked and you're wondering what's going to happen, or if you're just curious about how we assess communication. In our communication catch-up, we're chatting all about the adult clients we've seen this week, fundraising events, and how we celebrated Mother's Day. In our Talking Lab Loves segment, we're going to tell you why we love the You Choose Picture Book series and how we use them in most of our assessments. So step into our clinic and join us for a journey through a speech and language therapy assessment in this episode of Talking Lab Live. Talking Lab is an independent speech and language therapy service provider. We are a team of 2 therapists dedicated to improving lives by supporting communication. We provide assessment and support for families of children and young people aged 0 to 25, and you can enjoy sessions in the comfort of your own home, online, or at our clinic space in Waterlooville in Hampshire. We offer flexible appointment times and we promise to never put you on a waiting list. Check out our website at talking-lab.com for a full list of our services and prices. There's an option to submit an inquiry where we will call you back for a free, no obligation consultation. If you have communication concerns, we'd love to talk to you.
Now it's time for our communication catch-up. Lucy, how's your week been?
It's been a good week. It's been a very different week because we have had 2 adult clients this week. So we advertise ourselves as a 0 to 25 service because we normally have parents bringing their children along, even if their children are much older. But this week, for the first time, we've had older people. So we had a man who was in his 50s come to us for support because he has always felt of himself as a different kind of communicator and he really wanted some support actually to further his own business. And he was looking for some ideas around how he could become more confident with starting conversations, maintaining conversations, and really pushing himself as a business owner.
Yeah, which is incredible. And it was really fascinating for us to have such a different variety, I guess, of client kind of come through, and it's something we don't usually do, but it was something that was completely within our scope of practice and something we should be offering. So if anything, it's made us better as therapists to know that we can offer more to a wide variety of people, because you had a second adult come in this week as well, also with very different needs, but again completely within our scope of practice. So it was nice to relook at kind of our website and think, how else can we actually support more people within our local community? And I think what's been nice this week is we've really kind of stretched ourselves with the ways that we work. You know, we don't just get clients come through and say, oh, yep, you're going to come to our office, we'll see you on this day. You know, we're really flexible as a company, and we've seen people on Zoom, we've seen people at our offices, at our homes. You know, we've had annual reviews, we've even done training packages recently, which was for a local day service who support adults with learning disabilities. You know, I think it's great that we're kind of expanding our own knowledge and kind of being able to put more out there into our community. But I think what's nice is not even just as a business, even as an independent person, like at the weekend you were still ploughing away at your weekend and still helping support your local community by raising funds for your local school.
Yes, so that's right. So I had the Big Breakfast event, which is an annual event in my village that's been running for years. We used to raise money for the preschool, and now sadly the preschool has closed, so we're raising funds for the school instead. So basically we get a load of food in and we cook a cooked breakfast for the whole village, and you came along with your mum, which was really nice.
I can verify it was a fantastic breakfast.
Oh, good.
Did enjoy.
Sorry I didn't get a chance to chat to you. It was just chaotic. We could have done with a few more volunteers, to be honest. But yeah, it was really good. There was a cake sale. It's just behind the scenes, it's really good fun. I love it because I feel like I'm on the episode of The Apprentice, and nice. I'm just rushing around and I'm like, oh my god, we've got to make those sales, we've got to please those customers.
Which is so interesting because as a customer on that day, someone that was coming to get breakfast, it looked so smooth sailing.
Oh,
like you wouldn't have known that there was any stress going on. It just looked so clean. Everyone was so happy.
Yes, lots of empty plates and lots of compliments about the food, so we were really pleased with that. We had a cake sale, there was a raffle, and still totting up the numbers, but I think we raised about £1,000 for the school.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is their biggest ever fundraising event. So I think they'll be really pleased with us, and I'm delighted because it's a great school. And then yesterday was Mother's Day.
Oh, it's Happy Mother's Day
Happy
yesterday.
Mother's Day. Yeah, because your stepkids gave you a little something, didn't they?
They did. It was so sweet. So it was my first ever Mother's Day that I've ever received a Mother's Day gift or card. And I know that's not what it was about, but it meant the absolute world to me. And I opened the card and it was like, Happy Mother's Day to our bonus mum.
Oh,
like how much they really appreciated me, even from their mum saying like how supportive of a stepmum I've been.
Oh, really?
And then they'd gone shopping and they'd bought, like, I love Alice in Wonderland, so it was an Alice in Wonderland like little beauty bag full of loads of little spa beauty bits in there, some Alice in Wonderland socks. So it was really, really sweet and really personable, so I felt very special.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Did you cry? I feel like I'm gonna cry.
I did have a cry.
Aww, they are so lovely. And you, like, testament to you, you are such a nice stepmom, and you've handled what I think a lot of people would find quite a difficult situation with just such grace and dignity, and the boys are so lucky to have you.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And I thought it was a really nice way of wording it, because I've always said to them that I'm not their mum, they have a mum. I'm not trying to replace that. So we were trying to come up for a name for me, and I jokingly told them a couple of months back, oh, just call me Satan, just in passing. That stuck for a few weeks. So slightly regretted that choice. And then I would be Daddy Sophie, because I was an extension of Dad, which I thought was quite a nice fit.
Okay.
So Daddy Sophie, because I'm not mum, you have a mum, I'm an extension of Dad, so I'm Daddy Sophie. But no, I really like bonus mum.
Yeah, I think
that's
bonus
nice.
mum was nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, how was your Mother's Day?
Yeah, my Mother's Day was good. So as of last year, I started a tradition of going to the spa on Mother's Day.
Nice.
Because I think, Mother's Day is celebrating this incredibly hard job of being a mum. And if I wanted to celebrate what a good job you do, I wouldn't be like, oh, Sophie, you're such a great speech therapist. Come in on your day off and do more speech therapy.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'd want to give you the day off to do something great. So I strongly believe that everyone should have a day off from mothering on Mother's Day. And that should be a day with Dad and the kids. And I went off to the spa with my mum and Matt's mum and my sister. And we just had a purely relaxing, refreshing day. I had a little nap in that sleep room.
Nice.
With a hot stone bed, so I was like, I'm just going to rest my eyes for a second. And then it was half an hour later and I felt so refreshed.
Honestly, it's the best spa I've ever been to.
It's amazing, isn't
so
it?
Lucy took me to the spa for my birthday, and I was in all. There were so many rooms. One of the rooms looked like, was it like a Roman Colosseum?
Yeah.
It was massive. There was the hot like stone beds that you could lay in. There was loads of different rooms with loads of different things going on. It was like unlimited drinks. It was
It's like a theme park, isn't it? It's like an adult only theme park of relaxation. I love it. So I came back feeling so wonderful, and I got the best Mother's Day present of all when I got in, because boy baby, 4 months old, slept right through, just woke up for one little feed in the middle of the night, 5 minutes, back in his cot, slept right through to morning. So I feel like $1 million today.
nice.
So happy. The gift of sleep. Oh my God, it's been weeks since I had a good night's sleep.
And it was your first Mother's Day as a mum of 3.
Oh yes, it was. Yeah. Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. So yeah, so I'm back ready to be nice to my kids now because I've had a whole day off.
And that's what Mother's Day all about.
Absolutely, recharge those mothering batteries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we wanted to make this episode to address the mystery of what actually happens in a speech and language therapy assessment, because it's still such an unknown quantity, because
Nobody knows.
nobody knows, even though everybody, and I'm going to say everybody, will either know a person who is a speech therapist,
Yeah.
a person who has speech therapy themselves, or a person who is the parent of someone who has engaged with speech.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody will be one of those 3 things, or a speech and language therapist themselves.
Yeah, I wonder as well if those that have speech therapy just don't talk about it.
Maybe, or don't remember because they're so
Maybe.
little.
Very
Yeah.
true, very true.
And then within speech and language therapy assessments, obviously they look so different
Yeah.
from different services, different speech therapists, different client types.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk in this one about what someone might expect if they come to Talking Lab for a speech and language therapy assessment.
Apart from the best service ever.
Yes, the best service ever. We can guarantee you that. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. We've been asking some people, our friends and family, what they think happens in a speech and language therapy assessment, and some have come back with things like, do you just engage with the child, or are you also asking the parents questions? Some people have asked things like, well, do you have to cancel if the child won't talk or won't engage with you? Some people have wondered if we just provide a diagnosis there and then in the assessment and then send people away.
I've had people ask me if I can make the child talk in the session.
Yeah.
Is that an option?
Yeah.
You know, if I can wave a magic wand and
Wave
everything's
magic wand,
fixed.
yeah.
And go on. I've had people ask if it's an elocution lesson.
Yes.
If it's about actual
Yeah.
pronunciation.
I wonder if people think that we look in children's mouths, put things in their mouths, test whether they can move their mouth in a certain way.
Yeah.
People might
Definitely.
think that. Yeah.
Definitely. And we even had a client recently who, because we'd put that we're neurodivergent affirming therapists, thought that we then only saw neurodivergent clients.
Yes.
And actually that we weren't pigeonholing ourselves into that one bracket. We were just opening up to say that that is a way we practice. But it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So I think we should start off by saying, what can people expect before they even come through our doors, or before they have us through their doors? What happens before that point of initial assessment?
Yeah.
So what normally happens when people contact us?
So we are contactable through various means. So the first thing is they have to find us.
Yes.
And you have to know where to look, which again is often, I see Facebook groups and people saying, oh, I need a speech therapist, where do I look? So because we're independent therapists, we've got obviously the ASLTIP website, or we have our own website, which is talking-lab.com, for those that don't know.
ASLTIP is the Association of Speech and Language Therapists in Independent Practice. So it's ASLTIP. And so they have collected together anyone who is a member, so not all independent speech therapists are, but anyone who is a member is listed on their register. So if you go onto asltip.com, you can look at a register and find therapists in your area. So some people find us that way.
Yes, and another question we also get is everyone that is on the ASLTIP website is registered with the HCPC.
Yes.
Which is our governing body that we have to legally be registered to practice, as we get a lot of queries through asking if we have those kind of qualifications. So just to make that clear, everyone on that website is legally registered to practice speech and language therapy.
Really good point. Yeah, so you won't have anyone pretending to be a speech therapist because they wouldn't be able to register. And sometimes we get people through insurance companies. So I'm registered with WPA, and so sometimes that insurance company will signpost people if they're claiming through their health insurance.
Yeah, or just general word of mouth.
Yeah.
People going around, through previous client referrals that I've mentioned, or I've had speech and language therapy here.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a multitude of ways as to how people kind of get in touch with us. And we find that the easiest way that we can then get back to people is we have plastered all over our website is a big black box. It basically says talk to me, which if you click on that box, it will then link you to a very brief form which will then be emailed to us, which contains basically any of your concerns and your contact details. Then we can contact you directly.
That sometimes people, especially if they're inquiring about their own communication difficulties, they might not want to talk on the phone, or sometimes we'll have people request, I work shifts, so I'm not easy to get on the phone. I'm not easy to be contacted on the phone, so can we communicate by email instead? And obviously, being an inclusive practice, we're always fine with that as well. So sometimes we'll email them instead of calling them if that's what they want.
Absolutely, and even when we do call them, one of our first questions is now a good time to talk?
Yeah.
Because we are not going to be offended if you say absolutely no, it's not. Can you please call me back at another time? Of course we can. It's not, we've given you a call, you're not available now, so we've stricken you off the list.
No, this is your one chance, and then that's it, bottom of the list.
Yeah, no, we make a note as to whatever's flexible for you.
We do. Flexibility is what we're all about.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we just get people phoning us straight off the website now, don't we? Because we've got our office phone, and if we're here, it's nice because we'll be available to chat and can talk to them there and then.
Absolutely. So if anyone out there calls us and they hear a very different voice answer, I have such a phone voice. I sound like such a different human being.
We don't have an option on our website for people to just book themselves an initial assessment. And so why is that?
Because we always want to make sure that firstly we are the right people for you.
Yeah.
We are 100% satisfaction guaranteed, so we would never take your money if we did not feel that we are the right people to support your need.
Yeah.
It's also really important to kind of know what your concerns are and how best you can be supported with that. So that might not be us, that could be another therapist, that could be another service. We signposted loads of free services.
Loads of great free services. We'd always rather, if there is a free service that offers what that person needs, we'd rather they take that service rather than come to us and spend money unnecessarily, because we have to be responsible service providers.
Absolutely. And we've even got a whole section on our website which is called SLT DIY, where we've got loads of videos that Lucy has kindly produced over the years of different areas of speech and language therapy. So it's around things like choices and what to expect in 18 months. So sometimes when we get people call through that just got some concerns, we can always signpost and be like, well, if you watch this video, there's loads of really useful information on there. And then if you're still not sure, you're welcome to get back in contact and we can see how else we can support.
Yeah, and loads of times people will call and we'll have a chat to them. And in that initial triage phone call, we actually end up saying, look, what you've said does not sound worrying at all. I don't think you'd be best placed to spend money on a speech and language therapy assessment. You're welcome to, if it would put your mind at ease, you can. However, this doesn't sound worrying. We think if you have a look at this website or this other service, they sound absolutely fine. And people are often really grateful for that.
And I think that's the biggest thing as to kind of what makes the difference is we're not just saying, we can't support you or we think you're fine and end the call.
No.
Or end which other communication method we're using with that person. We always take the time to explain why.
Yeah.
Why we think that. Why we don't have a concern, and then we're always really happy as well to then email you with that signposted information of like, this is what we can offer, or this is why we don't think it's appropriate, this is where you can go instead. So we want you to leave still feeling that you've got another avenue of support, not just the kind of the buck ends with us.
Yeah, and I love that people do have that option of actually chatting to a speech and language therapist with no obligation. And sometimes when we've said, do you know what, this is fine, try this, honestly, don't worry about it, they've been like, oh, I feel really bad, I've taken up so much of your time, like, is there anything we can do for you? And we're like, no, like, this is just part of being a speech and language therapist. We love to be able to give back in that way. Sometimes we'll say, can you write us a nice review?
Oh yeah, we love a review. That. But we love communication anyway, so regardless, even if it's just, no obligation phone call or a brief email to explain it, ultimately it's still meeting our shared goal of supporting that communication, even if it's not directly through with us.
Absolutely, it all comes full circle. It's just part of the job for us, so we love that. So always make sure we talk to them first. So we do that initial triage call, and then if we decide, yes, we agree, have a chat, we can definitely help, then we'll book them in.
We will indeed.
Yeah, and we can usually, I've never not been able to, we can always book them in within 2 weeks.
Yes.
We're pretty flexible. We try to see the school-age children after school so they don't have to miss school.
Mm-hmm.
We do occasional weekends. You're doing a Saturday coming up this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah.
So quite often working parents will say we'd really like both parents to be there, so we'll accommodate them on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't know if you do this as well, but whenever I try and book in a family and they're like, oh, can we come in at 11 o'clock? And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but it's an hour and a half appointment, so do you want to come before lunch? Do you want to bring some snacks for the appointment? Like, I'm very aware, particularly with preschool children, like I'm very aware that it's probably around their lunchtime or nap times or whichever, and what's kind of more flexible for you. And then a lot of the times they're like, oh yeah, can we bring some food? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you know, make it as welcoming and as comfortable for you guys as possible.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, have a nap first and then come and see us, because I actually get a lot of parents say, oh, can I see you in the morning, because that's when they're most alert and they're most awake, and actually that doesn't overly matter, you know. We are completely open to whatever is going to be presented with us, because even if the child doesn't want to play ball within the session, we know that that's perfectly okay.
And it doesn't matter at all.
No, and ultimately as parents, as adults around that child or whoever, you're their experts. So we will trust you ultimately with what you say as kind of the gospel as what's happening with this child. And an assessment is more than just sitting down with that child and doing one thing. It's kind of the whole environment. So talking with families, you know, looking at a case history, seeing what else is kind of going on, not just that like one-to-one, let's play with these toys or do each other.
Definitely. So when they come to see us, so we're based in Waterlooville, in a lovely business centre, so they'll come in, they'll park up, they'll head into the reception office to chat to the lovely Connor, or if they're really lucky, James.
They are so accommodating because we're so demanding.
We are so demanding, and they bend over backwards for us. Yeah, we love it here. And then reception will sort out their parking for them, so you don't have to pay for parking, and then they'll send them up or across depending on where our office for the day is, and then we will greet them in our clinic if they're coming to see us.
Absolutely, and we try and make it as easy as possible to explain where they'll find us. Because it's always James or Connor that kind of books us in the room. They know where we're based, so worst case scenario, they are happy to kind of bring you upstairs and show you where we are. We always put our sign in the window just to try and make it as easy as a transition as possible. And even though more often than not we're upstairs, we do have the flexibility to book downstairs if obviously there's mobility issues and things as well, just to make it as inclusive as possible.
Because we have people bringing the whole family, don't we? We have babies, we have older children, we have grandparents, so our space is big enough to accommodate anyone who wants to come. Absolutely. We're very family friendly, so they want to come feed their babies, change their babies. We can cater pretty much for everything, can't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we don't want anyone to have a barrier of being able to access our services. So they come into a nice big office with our younger children. We'd have our play mat out on the floor with the toys set up. You always lay the toys out so beautifully. You make it look like an Instagram. Yes, always. Like when I do it, I try and emulate what you do, but I'm like, Sophie makes it look just artistic. Like you set the train track up in a perfect little circle and just like place it nicely on top, whereas I just like dump the train track out. I'm like, here you go.
I think because I always remember when I was a child going into any form of like physician's office or any form of healthcare, and they'd have some form of toys out. They were always ready to play with. So I always envision like, right, if I want to come in, I don't want to like make things and do things because this might already be stressful enough. Like, what can I just play with?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's why I did it. So it's not actually just to look insta perfect.
I mean, that's a bonus.
So have some toys set out, we'll have some books around the place. So generally, if it's a little person who's come to see us, they'll come in. If it's one of us, we'll just invite them to play with whatever they like. and we'll sit the family down, make them feel as comfortable as we can, offer them a drink. We've got tea and coffee facilities here, water, whatever they need. They might come from far away, so they might need to use the toilet straight away. We've got all of that here. And generally with the families who come with smaller children, if we're both in there, one of us will normally sit and just play with the child, won't we? Because we're always observing on what that child is doing, because from the second they walk in, we're collecting mental data on how that child is in a new environment, how they respond to us as an unfamiliar adult, what interactions they're having with their family. So all of that, we're just storing that information and we're adding that to the total of how we're assessing that child.
Absolutely, and I think that's so important. And whenever we do an initial assessment, the beginning of the session, once everyone's kind of settled and, you know, been to the loo and had a drink, we always explain what's the purpose of this session, you know, what are we going to do, how are we going to carry it out. Because I think from an outside looking in, if I'm just sat playing with a child, I'd probably be like, well, what am I paying for? Is this a glorified babysitting service? Like, what's actually kind of going on in that therapist's brain? What are they looking for? How are they doing it? Particularly if we use a lot of like indirect play. So I think taking that time to kind of explain to our clients, parents, families, whoever, what we're doing and why we're doing it is so important.
And notice it and explaining what we've noticed. So I can see that they're doing this with Sophie, and that's probably because of this reason. So then we try and get the families to chat to us a little bit more. So by that time they filled out a case history form. So we've got the background information on the child, their developmental history, their communication history, what the family's goals are for that child. And then so we'll revisit that a little bit more, won't we? So is there anything else you'd like to tell me? And they might have thought of other things in the interim between filling in the form and coming to see us. If they're in a setting, a nursery, a preschool, a school, we might ask a bit more about what does the school think, what does this preschool think, how do you feel about the school, do you feel they're well supported there? So really building up a whole picture of this child as the centre of their whole environment, both at home, in their setting, who else is involved, do they see grandparents, all those kind of things.
After we've done the case history, what do we do next?
By this time, you've got a bit of a better understanding of what that child might be willing and able to engage in the session. So we might offer the parents some options. If it's a preschooler, I'd probably get out our Teddy Talk test, which is a really nice informal play-based assessment that has a lot of toys, and we can use it to test children's understanding, how many words they're using in a sentence, and we can also listen in on the speech sounds that they're using. So we might say to the family, this is the assessment we would normally use. Are you happy for us to go ahead? And they can say yes or no. So for preschoolers, I'd normally only use that one, although it wouldn't be suitable for all preschoolers, especially those from our neurodivergent community.
Yeah, definitely. And what I like about the Teddy Talk test is that it comes with its own little booklet of ages and stages. So we can kind of show that with the family, or we can kind of give it to them whilst we're carrying out the assessment, and that they can have a look through and map where they think that their child currently sits for kind of all of those areas of communication that you were just talking about. So like for their understanding, for kind of their expressive language, those speech sounds. But unfortunately, as you rightfully said, it is based on a typically developing sample. So it isn't necessarily as suitable for our neurodivergent population. However, we can still use it informally, as it's always useful to gain lots of other relevant information as well. So kind of how was their play? Actually, did we notice that there was any sensory needs within the environment as they were kind of doing the assessment? Is it that my questions were too demanding for them? Is it that my questions were too big? Is it actually that they were really supported with a visual rather than me just talking at them? Because we know the assessments are so boring. No matter how fun we try and make them.
Yeah, we don't want to be interrogating them. It's not fun. You're right, however much you dress it up, which is why a lot of our assessment is observation-based and informal. And I think one thing that people probably worry about is if they do have a child who is presenting as autistic or neurodivergent in some way, and they might think, well, I can't go to a speech and language therapist for an assessment because my child doesn't talk. So what on earth are they going to assess?
Definitely. Yeah, the biggest fear is if the child's not going to communicate with us, or if the child might potentially even fall asleep within the assessment, or just doesn't want to engage with us at all, wants to play very independently. It's not a problem. We know ultimately that the families that come along with the child are that child's expert.
Yeah.
So we gain so much information from those families, as well as engaging with the child, whether that is directly engaging or whether that's just through observation or through play. Like, we learn so much through play, and I think that's one thing that we're really good at explaining what we're doing during our play. Whereas from an outside looking in, I'm not just playing with a train track.
Yeah.
There is a meaning and a purpose behind why we're playing with these things.
Absolutely. So yeah, today's families, I would say it absolutely does not matter if your child is not yet talking, if your child does not want to engage at all. We get much more information from speaking to the families because we know the right questions to ask, and we know how to test things like understanding even indirectly through the families. Like, for example, some people might come to us and they'll say, okay, well, my child understands everything. And we would probe that a little bit more, and we'd say something like, okay, well, if you ask them to go into a different room and get something quite specific, let's say they're yellow socks, would they come back with the right item and the right colour? And they'd stop and think about that, and they'd be like, oh, maybe not. Maybe they'd come back with socks, but maybe they wouldn't be the specific yellow socks. So that's just giving us a little bit more understanding about what that child is able to do.
Definitely. And what we often find is children in particular with communication difficulties are fantastic at faking it until they make it.
Oh, yes.
So their understanding comes across as they have got it down to a T.
Yeah.
I can follow this instruction, I can do whatever you want. But actually what the families have done is an amazing job of supporting them with all of these other things, such as like limited questions, asking for one thing at a time, providing a visual, having a structured routine, that it comes across that this child actually understands everything. But as you rightfully said, if we ask for that one specific item that isn't necessarily routine based, then we really kind of see actually how much are they understanding, or are we just really, really good at kind of supporting them through?
Yeah, definitely. So that's what we would do with our preschoolers who are verbal, and our littlies who are not yet talking, and we're wondering if they're autistic or neurodivergent in some way. So those ones would be a lot of play-based and a lot of getting the information from the families. What about our school-age children who might come to us with difficulties because maybe they're not coping in school, maybe they're having issues with their friends, their social communication? What might an assessment for those children look like?
Yeah, definitely. So the room itself will look very different. We often don't have as many toys out because obviously they're much older children. They don't necessarily want to be kind of spoken down to or given kind of younger toys. So we still have things available that they can fidget with or play with. So we often have sensory toys available. We were talking about possibly investing in some colouring or something to have in the session, and some more mindful things. But often it's based on the school age children, of them having an understanding and a level of communication to be able to advocate for their own needs. So a lot of that assessment is based on what do they want, how do they feel that their communication is presenting, where do they feel their difficulties are, where would they like support in, how are they getting on at school. So it's very kind of informal, question based, of kind of getting to the bottom of what their school life's like, what are your friends like, what do you do outside, and then kind of unpicking from that and kind of learning a lot more about what they'd actually like from us for support. Because you occasionally get families come in where parents are naturally very concerned, but the child actually isn't, and that's okay. Or the parents think that they're fine, and then the child opens up that actually there's more difficulties than we've realised. So it's really important to kind of include everybody in that assessment process to get that kind of overall picture as to how we can best support them.
Yeah, it's really interesting sometimes, isn't it, to see that a parent might suggest something that they think the child is struggling with, and the child will actually stop them and be like, no, I don't see it like that at all. And that will be quite surprising to the parents. And we're almost watching this unfold and understanding how this conflict in communication has occurred. So that's what tends to happen with our school age children that come to see us.
Yeah, or if we've got any school-age children that are also neurodivergent.
Yeah.
We also offer a neurodivergent profile
Mm.
where we get a lot of the school-age children involved in kind of completing that profile with a therapist, or to take it home and kind of complete on their own time with family. And it kind of looks at all areas of their communication, sensory needs, and it's a lovely little double A4 side of just kind of getting to know them a little bit better and how best to communicate with them and what they might need. So I always find that's always quite nice to kind of do within the session as well with them. But yeah, I think it's difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly what we do with school-age children because they're all so different.
So different, yeah. Yeah, we would use all sorts of different things really. And occasionally, not as part of our standard initial assessment, but occasionally we would do a full standardised assessment for these complex cases where, let's say, the local authority needs a lot of data on a child's specific language levels. So then we might use a standardised assessment, which means it's been carried out on lots and lots of children, and there's lots of data available on what numbers typically we tend to see in each age bracket.
But shock horror, it's been carried out on typically developing children.
Absolutely, not standardised for neurodivergent children. So we don't really like carrying that one out, do we? Because it's boring for us.
It's so boring. Not even for me, but for the child.
It's
but I like that we make that clear from the get-go.
Yes.
We're very open and we're like, right, are you ready to have the most boring 2 hours of your life? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, let's go, because we offer them breaks, we offer them movement breaks, there's the fidget toys. We've got a lovely adapted visual that we've got now about that they can choose to skip it if they don't want to carry it out, or they can finish it at any time. You know, it's all about them advocating for what they want.
Yes, making it clear that we do it with their full consent, or we don't do it at all for any part of any assessment. And sometimes I think parents feel very anxious about the idea that they've brought their child here, and so their child must perform to the best of their abilities. So we will see them sort of try and cajole them and get them back, and what was Lucy saying? Oh, like, she said something to you. Can you show her this? And we really try to reassure them that it really doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter if we're not seeing them perform to the best of their abilities, because that's what the parents are here for, to tell us what is the best of their abilities and what is their typical ability to perform in a given situation. Yes.
Yeah, so that's most of the school-age children. Obviously, we do get a lot of stammering cases through, but I will put a pin in that for our upcoming stammering episode.
Yes.
We'll talk more into that. And
very rarely does a stammerer make it all the way into our clinic.
Yes, very rarely.
Very rarely.
But yeah, and then we also have our adult clients that you've had a lot of this week, actually.
I had a couple of adult clients. So, even though we advertise ourselves as a 0 to 25 service, we do see anyone with a communication problem who is looking for support. What we are not able to support with is the medical side of things, so the eating, drinking and swallowing side, just because we don't have the full qualifications and training that I think is required for that.
Yeah, definitely. So with eating, drinking and swallowing, you'd need a dysphagia specialist, which hopefully, I believe the upcoming students within the next couple of years will all have that qualification. So it'll be much easier for people to then find a dysphagia trained specialist. And then also we often don't see clients who have things like brain injuries or stroke or have an acquired communication difficulty. But having said that, even if we have those clients kind of come forward with their concerns, we would never send you away without signposting you to someone that could support you.
Absolutely.
Or where you could find other people or other services, because we don't want you to just kind of feel that your journey's ended with us. We want you to still feel supported, even though we haven't necessarily been the direct people to support you.
Yeah. And sometimes we might have the odd person. I've had teachers come to me previously because they are public speaking on a regular basis and they might not like the way they pronounce a certain sound. And for things like that, it's absolutely fine, because we have that specialist knowledge of how we make sounds. And so we can show them, okay, you don't like the way you say your S's, or this is your type of S, and this is how you produce a different kind of S. And those are normally really easy sessions because they've come themselves, they're willing to engage. So I can show them and then they just go away and practice it. So again, it's a kind of a one session thing, but we're here if you want us in the future.
Definitely. And I think what's nice about that is that they have the kind of advocacy skills to make that choice for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not a child where someone's saying, oh, they can't make this sound, please wave your magic wand and then they can talk beautifully. That's not what we're here for. We want people who want to make the change, because otherwise we think the way you speak is beautiful and it's just a lovely, acceptable variation of speaking.
Absolutely. And yeah, the only communication you can change is your own. So if your child is producing sounds in a different way and they're not interested in changing the way they communicate, then the only thing you can do is change the way that you respond to their communication. And that's something we're really good at, I think, showing parents how they can actively work on their child's speech just by the way that they're responding to them when they're talking.
Definitely. I think that was really beautifully put.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so once we've done the assessment part of the session, so we've got all the data and all the information that we need in order to kind of form some conclusions about what is needed.
And I don't know if we specified, but generally that takes between an hour and a half.
The whole session is an hour and a half, and that first bit we try to I always try to leave the last half an hour for the practical recommendations, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So then that last half an hour is spent saying, this is what we found, and these are the things that will
best enhance and support kind of your child or your own communication skills. So it's almost like a toolbox of strategies that you can access if you wish to. Obviously there's no pressure or no demand. You haven't got to use any strategies if you don't want to, but we know that the strategies that we provide are the ones that you're going to see the fastest and the most successful results.
Yeah, and we have to take into account where that family's at as well. So
Absolutely.
The recommendations that we give will be dependent on, how motivated are they, what strategies would fit in best with this family's lifestyle. So for some we might give lots of strategies and signpost them on how to really fine-tune those and find out more information about them, whereas for other families we'd be like, we just want you to focus on this one, and this is the one that's going to make the biggest difference for you.
Absolutely, because we don't want it to feel like we're giving you homework.
No.
We already think that most of the time what you're already doing is fantastic, and it's just kind of slightly tweaking what you're already doing to make that maximum improvement. So we try and look at, as you said, what you're kind of already engaging in within your everyday lives and how we can kind of alter that very slightly so it doesn't feel that you've got an extra workload, because we know, particularly for the preschool children, that being a parent is such hard work that we then don't want to add on, all these additional things that you have to do, like, oh, you have to go on a full signing course and then we expect you to use all of these words and learn all of these things and watch all these YouTube videos and do all of these, like, it's just
things and laminate and cut them off.
It's just not reasonable and it's not life. So we want you to firstly feel supported within the session. So part of that half-hour session is us modelling and explaining the strategies and then allowing you the opportunity to give it a go whilst we're here to then support you with it. And then you've got the opportunity to obviously practice it within the session, ask any further questions, and then hopefully go away feeling really confident and comfortable to kind of carry that out in a kind of daily interaction.
Yeah, I'd like to think that everyone who comes to visit us leaves feeling better about whatever concern they came to us with, and B, with a really good idea of what they need to do next to improve the situation. We never send anyone away with just a quote unquote diagnosis and say,
absolutely,
this is what your child has. Bye, that will be a load of money, please. We would never do that, because a diagnosis is not that helpful in that many situations. So we don't tend to focus on diagnoses, we tend to focus on individual needs.
Absolutely.
So this is the need that your child has, and this is the exact thing that you can start doing immediately. And we're going to watch you do it, and we're going to provide feedback on that, and that's going to massively improve your lives.
Definitely. We are always 100% satisfaction guarantee. And I think, our Google reviews speak for themselves. We're currently 5 stars on Google. We offer every single person that comes through our door the opportunity to write a Google review. So we don't just select, the people that have had the best experience. It's open to everybody. And it's really nice to see the feedback that people have so kindly written about the service that we provide.
Yeah, people are so generous. We don't ask them to write reams and reams, but they often do.
Yeah, which is lovely.
And Google will group the words that come up a lot, and I love seeing the ones that come up time and time again, which are things like confidence, empowered, understanding, taking time to listen.
Which is so great.
Yeah, these answers are actually already within most of the people that come to see us. I think they just need a bit of confidence in us pointing out that, look, you already know this. This is us just bringing it to the surface for you.
Honestly, I think we should make it our catchphrase that confidence is confidence is a communication game. No, communication is a confidence game.
Yeah.
This is why it's not our catchphrase. I can't even say it right.
It is. It's the family's confidence. It's the child's confidence. Yeah, confidence is everything.
Absolutely.
And I like to think we're really good at boosting that.
Yeah, we are your communication cheerleaders, if anything.
We do loads of cheerleading. Yeah, we love to cheerlead. I was a cheerleader, do you know?
I did not know that, no.
Yeah, back in the day, I was a cheerleader for Cambridge Uni. I didn't go to the uni, but they let me in their cheerleading team. And then I was a cheerleader for Essex Uni.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the closest I got to cheerleading is pretending I could do it in my bedroom. No, I tell an absolute lie. I did cheerleading when I was younger. I did majorettes. I've just clearly blocked that from my memory.
Like with the twirling batons and stuff.
Yeah, with the baton twirling. And we did one performance to Shrek, and I can't remember if I was Shrek or Fiona. I think I was Fiona, and that green paint did not come off for days. So we were in a competition. This was to a cheerleading, so it was with the pom-poms in full green makeup, and then the day of the award ceremony there was still green all around like the rim of my face.
I can't believe you didn't carry it on. That sounds amazing. So after we've given them the information on what we think would be the best strategies for them to use, then we talk about the plan. So what's going to happen next?
Yes.
Okay, we've assessed the child. These are the child's needs, or your needs, or the adult's needs. These are the things that will make a real difference straight away. Then what we would recommend going forward, if the child is what we would call within normal limits, so if they're following the typical pattern, maybe they appeared a little bit delayed in, say, their language, but actually we showed them, look, this is what we would expect for a child of that age, and actually they're right where they should be. Yeah. So, you don't need to worry, they're absolutely fine. We've given you some strategies anyway that will keep things moving along a bit quicker, but we wouldn't recommend seeing you again because they're within normal limits. And for those ones, we would say, we're here if you need anything, but we're not going to recommend any kind of follow-up.
Absolutely. And we put on our reports if we have recommended a follow-up assessment or a follow-up consultation. But even if we haven't made a follow-up, we always say that you are welcome to contact us at any time if you have any concerns or you would like a follow-up. Just because we don't recommend it doesn't mean that you can't have one.
No.
You are more than welcome to get back in touch with us at any time.
Yeah. And then for the ones that would be kind of outside of those normal limits, so let's say a child is delayed with their language or is presenting as neurodivergent and needing some support with those early stages of communication, we would give them some options. And so those options could kind of be anything the parents want, really, to an extent. So some might want a bit of further training. They might say, okay, well, this whole world of autism is new to me and I want to actually know more about it. And so we would offer that kind of training because you can get information about autism from lots of different places, and some of it is good and some of it is not good. So we'd want to know that the messages they were getting about autism and autistic people is affirming. Yeah. So what actually being autistic means, and the strategies and the principles that we like, and the strategies and the principles that are not neurodivergent affirming and that you'd want to stay well away from.
Definitely. And within those recommendations, it's not necessarily paid recommendations either. We could also recommend to other services or other websites that we do know of that are neurodivergent affirming. Yeah. We've got on the website Talking Lab Loves, there's 1 or 2 books on there for neurodivergence that we recommend. There's a book on there for stammering, which is a really beautiful book, which again we'll put a pin in for the stammering podcast. But whenever we find something and we think this is fantastic, we will always check it out first to know that it's definitely fantastic. And then we stick it on our Talking Lab Loves part of the website, just so you can follow it on there.
And
so that's kind of the very quick overview of kind of the within normal limits, or if you're kind of outside of those normal limits, as to what we'll do. But that's kind of a general overview, because obviously it's always very tailored and very personable within the session as to what those next steps might look like.
And we might offer things like let's say they've come to see us in clinic, and we might say, okay, we've given you some strategies. Do you want to work on those? And then we'll come and visit you at home and see if we can look around your house and recommend how we'd implement these strategies with the things that you have at home.
Definitely.
We might recommend going into the child's setting. So we could say we could go into their nursery or preschool and speak to their teachers and give them the same information, because sometimes it's a bit more powerful coming from a speech and language therapist rather than via the parents.
Yeah, definitely.
Or go into the school and see what we can recommend, for that child in their education environment.
Yeah, or it could be that we've recommended that visuals are really supportive and parents don't know where to start. So we actually hand produce our own visuals, which we can make for personalised. We do have some pre-made visuals again on the website, but just kind of anything and everything. I've even had families before say, "Oh, can you do this?" And it wasn't something that I'd previously done, but I was like, "Oh, actually, can I? Yeah, that's completely within my scope of practice. Let's discuss this. Let's talk about this, and let's see how we can make this work." So even recently, because we know there's such a high need for children who are on the waiting list for the NHS, there's not enough therapists currently available at the moment. We've reflected on our practice, and that's why we've then introduced that preschool screener, which is that 1 hour £200 assessment, but then it kind of looks at where is your child within normal limits, and hopefully to give you that peace of mind, that support and those recommendations for that interim period, particularly because we don't know the full effects, but COVID obviously has had a big impact on children, and we're seeing a lot more delayed children come through, a lot of parents that are uncertain. So hopefully by popping in that extra service, it can give a lot of parents a lot of peace of mind and feel that they're still being supported.
Yeah, and even if they are on an NHS waiting list, you don't get kicked off the waiting list if you've had a private assessment.
Absolutely not, no.
We work absolutely in line with NHS services, so they are not going to prevent your access to their services if you see an independent speech therapist. So that's what we might recommend. We might recommend you have a go at these strategies and maybe come back in 3 months, say, once you've had a chance to really feel confident with using these strategies every day, and then that will give us a bit of time to see if it's made a difference to that child's communication, and hopefully it will have.
Yeah, and then what we're trying to do at the minute is, if we've recommended 3 months, is give you a call back in 3 months and kind of see where you are with it.
Yes.
And quite a lot of the time, it's lovely because parents are like, "Oh yeah, there's been all these changes. This has been really great. Can I give you a call in a couple more months just to see where we are then?" And that's been really nice.
I've loved making those calls, actually. It's been great to catch up with families. And then sometimes people will, before they speak to us, I think they never really say it after they speak to us, but before they speak to us, they might be thinking, my child has communication difficulties, so I want a speech language therapist to go and spend time with them every week in their school or in their nursery and quote unquote fix their communication, or like quote unquote make them talk. Which is something that we wouldn't offer, because we would want to take a person's money in that way. That's not how communication develops or occurs. So I always compare it to, like, the service that we offer is like a dietitian. So if your child had, let's say, a weight issue, they were, overweight or underweight, and you went to see a dietitian, then what the dietitian would do is evaluate the difficulty and give a really good meal plan of, this is what your child should be eating. This is what you should be offering in order to rectify this weight condition. What that dietitian would not say is, okay, well, bring them to see me and I'll make them a meal once a week. And that's going to make a difference to their weight, because one meal a week is not going to do anything. It does not have the capacity to do anything. If the child's food intake remains the same apart from that one meal a week, nothing will change. And it's exactly the same as speech and language therapy.
Absolutely. And I joke with families all the time that I was like, it's, we know that it's so much more beneficial for us to kind of support all of the adults around that child than if I was to go in once a week, sit down with little Sophie and be like, oh, we're going to work on this, this and this. Little Sophie is not going to go back to our class or go home and be like, oh, big Sophie was in today and we worked on all of these S-blends and we did all of this and it was great. So it's not generalizable.
No, it doesn't generalize. And all it does is means that the family spends loads of money and doesn't get those outcomes. And I would feel terrible taking money off people and not delivering something that made a difference to that child and that family's life. So what we are very happy to do is if you were a dietitian and the family said, I'm really stuck with what to feed my child, and I feel like you've got all the knowledge and skills and I'm just really lacking confidence, that dietitian, if they were good at cooking, might suggest, well, I can cook alongside you and I can show you how to make these meals. So any sessions that we do where there is a relevant adult present is fine, because as long as we're building up that adult's confidence in how to support this child's communication, we know that that's going to have a lasting effect, because that adult is seeing that child more than just once a week.
Definitely.
So if we were going in and seeing that child in school and their LSA, who's in the classroom every day, is with them, their learning support assistant, that's fine, because what we're doing is we're transferring what we know to the person who has the ability to make the difference, because it's not us. We don't have the ability to make the difference. We're not there enough. If they were living with us, yes, they would.
That's not a service we're offering.
No, not yet. I mean, if you've got £1 million you want to throw at this,
speech and language daycare.
Yeah, sure. But at the moment, it's not an option, and that is the only way. The only direct therapy that I do is with my own children, because I use these strategies all of the time and I see it, and I see how much you have to put in to get the results back. So yeah, my children get loads of direct therapy because it's just me and them.
And I think what's nice is when you then talk to the adults, a lot of the time they're like, oh, this strategy was really great, and then I spoke to this teacher or this learning support assistant or this parent, and then soon you've got this domino effect of all these transferable skills, and then other adults then training up other adults, and then you've got this lovely supportive communication environment of everyone developing their own skills.
Yes.
And it's, even though it's originally kind of directed at that one specific child, those skills are transferable. You get other children that you're kind of working with, or you're supporting, or cousins, family, friends, whichever. You've then developed your own knowledge that you can then use to support others, and we think that's absolutely kind of the way forward.
So if we are doing direct therapy, as long as there's another adult there, it's absolutely fine. But what we wouldn't say is bring your child back and see us every week, and you sit in the corner and read a book, or do work on your laptop and we'll do speech work with your child. That's not going to make a difference. But we will come and visit you, or we will do the input for as many times as you want. But the aim is always to build that adult's confidence in how to support the child's communication, because none of what we do is rocket science.
No.
Anything that we do can be done by an adult, and is better done by an adult who that child really loves or is really familiar with.
Absolutely. And you don't know what you don't know. So we will never talk down to people if they don't know something, because you don't know what you don't know.
No,
we know,
with
emphasis on the no, that everything we do, that we can help and support other people to kind of carry out those strategies.
We let whoever comes to see us decide their own future treatment plan. We don't tend to say, we recommend 6 sessions of us coming into school. We'll say, these are the things that we've recommended. How confident do you feel to go forward now and carry it out? If you're not feeling that confident, what can we do to make you feel more confident? What would be helpful for you? And those families will get the idea of what support they need, and that will differ for every family. So we get families who come in and are like, this has been a light bulb moment, everything you've said makes so much sense, I feel so much better, this has been great, thank you so much, and see you later. And we're like, brilliant, we've made that family's lives better. So it's not like as soon as you come through the door we're trying to get you to spend loads of money. That's not what we're about. That's sort of like best case scenario for us. If they're not sure, they quite often say, oh, I want to have a go, but can I give you a call in a couple of weeks, or I'd really like you to have the same session with the grandparents or with dad here as well, or something like that. And for any of it, we just say, yes, that's absolutely fine. What can we do to help? What can we do to help you feel more confident in this?
But I think that kind of sums up what we do within our assessment. But as I said before, if you've got any questions or you want to know more, you can link on the Q&A, which is definitely on Spotify.
Definitely on Spotify.
If you're listening to this on another platform, then I've got no idea and I'm so sorry.
At the end of the session, if we remember, the little Lees get a sticker, don't they?
Stickers they do get a sticker. They do get a sticker, and we have a choice of 2 stickers. And what's lovely is it's a final way of modelling choices with the family and with the child as to kind of what they want. And everyone loves a sticker.
Well, they do, but with school age, I'm never quite sure. Like, what age, as a school age child, what age is it no longer cool to get stickers, do you think?
I think just offer. Because worst case scenario, someone's just going to say no.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like 13, 15, still go with the sticker.
Like 25.
25, okay.
Well,
yeah.
no, I'm 29.
So basically, if you come here and we haven't offered you a sticker, just ask us and we'll give you the one.
We have a Q&A attached to this podcast. So if at any point we have not necessarily explained anything because we've gone on a tangent about Shrek and cheerleading, or if people would like to know more, we are always open to people's questions, and there is no such thing as a stupid question.
No. And also what I really like about us as a service is we're constantly changing, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So the way that we do initial assessments now is probably likely to change, and I love being able to work alongside you, and after a session you'll come up with a really good idea and be like, why don't we do this for families, and why don't we present it in this way? And I just think, I'm a much better speech therapist since you've joined.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I think we balance each other really well. It's very open. A lot of the times if both of us are free, sometimes clients end up with 2 for the price of 1 because we'll both kind of jump in on the session.
Yeah.
As you said, one of us will play with the child, the other one will work with the families.
Yeah.
But then it's nice because then you get obviously 4 eyes looking at the situation, and that's when we really reflect on our practice and think, right, that was amazing, but how can we make that better?
Yes. So that brings us on to this week's Talking Lab Loves. And because it's the initial assessment, what we absolutely love is the You Choose book series by Pippa Goodhart and Nick Sharratt. And these are great books. They're easy to find. You can buy them on, say, Amazon. And they're big, very picture-heavy books. So they've got loads and loads of pictures. The illustrator, Nick Sharratt, is the one who illustrated all the Jacqueline Wilson books. So I really like using them because I get that nostalgia kick whenever I use them. And they're super, super colourful, loads of pictures. And it's empowering, isn't it? You choose. So
Absolutely.
There are little prompts in the book of asking your child questions like, if you were in a fairy tale, what would you live in? And there's castles and caves and all sorts, and who would be your friends? There's lots of different characters. What would you wear? There's lots of different clothes. So it's just so nice. It always inspires great conversation. So we'll often whack these out in an assessment because we can use it with pretty much any age child and any kind of difficulties. So if we're looking at language, we're looking at inputting really nice, meaningful words. If we're looking at speech sounds, you can look on the page and find something to target the specific sound that you're looking for. So, I can see some sausages, and there's spiders crawling out of the cauldron, and it's really, really good. And the kids love flicking through them. The one that I used the other day is absolutely battered now, so I've had it for many, many years, and so I gave it to my kids to cut up, and they loved that. They absolutely loved cutting up the book. I had to be like, this is the only book you can cut. Do not cut the other books. But yeah, and parents will always say when we're in a session like, these books are fantastic, where do we get them? So if you're listening to this and you are wondering about an assessment, this is something that we always use, that you can have a look on the internet and check out the You Choose series.
Definitely. And I went into a school the other day to meet with a child, and the LSA of the school came in all excited. I was like, I've bought these new books. Have you seen them before? And it was the collection of the You Choose books. And the child was just so enthralled with kind of how colourful and how just magical all of these pages were. And it just elicited?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that a word?
Yeah, elicited. Yeah.
elicited such a great range of just language from this child that I don't necessarily always hear. And I think because the books are so visual, it just provides so much extra support, and there's so much less pressure to kind of read a story and read that narrative. They kind of make up their own within what's happening through these pages. And I think it was like You Choose, there's a fairy tale version, there's a space version. The yellow one is quite the traditional one, and then there's a fourth one, but I can't remember what the fourth one is.
Yeah, there might even be more than that. I have to look at the updated ones. But yeah, like you said, you don't have to read it in any order. The kids can flick through and just land on a page that takes their interest, and there isn't that pressure of reading the story and reading the words at the top. Like, I rarely even read the words at the top. I'm just using it as a source of great pictures. So thank you to those authors if they're ever listening. Like, we're big fans. Send us a freebie.
Big fans.
So yeah, that's what we are loving always in every assessment.
So that brings us to the end of this podcast. So thank you so much for bettering through all of our random tangents that we have within it. We hope you found it useful. But if you did want to get in contact with us for an initial assessment, any general questions, or to ask us absolutely anything, as we said, there is no such thing as a silly question. You can contact us on our website, which we will link below, and it is www.talking-lab.com.
And if you're listening to this because you've already booked in with us and we've sent you this podcast as an idea of what to expect, then hopefully it's answered some of your questions and you're feeling a bit more relaxed and confident about what's going to happen when you come and see us or when we come to see you.
And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
Right, I'm just going to do a little thing here. No, I'm not.